Hello, my lovely soul, and welcome to Unstoppable Confidence. I am your host, Lauren Glick. I am here to bring you my energy, my motivational speaking, and me being a confidence mentor. My mission is to inspire women to own who they are, step into their higher selves fearlessly, and live a life with unstoppable joy. On this show, we are going to cover everything from aligning your life to your higher self, setting boundaries, self-growth, and living a purpose-driven life. Let's get you living a meaningful life you cannot wait to wake up to. Stop driving and start living with ease and abundance. Cheers to living a magical life. And I am so grateful to be on this journey with you. Now, let's head into today's episode. Oh my gosh, I am so stoked to have Brad Hart on today. My words. It's just, he is such a phenomenal human, has so much insight on investing in the stock market, life insurance, all the great things. This is not a financial advice throughout this podcast. It's all about his experiences through life and what led him to be such an open-hearted, just a very good human wanting to help other people and throughout their investments. And I think one of the most important parts of this episode is towards the end, and he talks about NFTs and cryptocurrency. He got in on Bitcoin when it was less than $100, and he got in on Ethereum. I think he said when it was less than $1. I could be making that up. Less than $8. Very low price point. So anyways, cannot wait for you to tune in, because how we grow our confidence is through our knowledge. And when we have a basic foundation of the things that we want to get into, that's when our confidence grows, and we could start moving forward through the fear of the unknown and starting to really get to understand things. So you need to listen to this whole episode, right? Because at the beginning, he talks about a story. Towards the end, it is all the juicy nuggets. So on that one, love, I cannot wait to have you on the other side of this episode. We'll see you there. So thank you, Brad, for being here today. I absolutely love your insight and all of your knowledge with investing and all of the good things along that realm of, crypto and NFTs. And it goes all the way to life insurance. I don't know if you remember Clubhouse back in the day. We talked about that a little bit, but would love for you to give us a little bit of a backstory about yourself, your life, how you got into all these things, and what you're doing now before we get started and diving into the questions.
Sure. Hey, and hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Lauren. And I'm just grateful to be here. I hope you get something really wonderful out of this conversation that serves you in your life going forward. And my name is Brad Hart, and I am from New York originally. I live in Phoenix, Arizona at the moment. Spent a lot of time in California and traveling around for my 20s, and then just settled down here. It's been really beautiful so far. We're living in a really strange world right now, and I think the world needs leadership and confidence and all these wonderful things more than ever now. So just the fact that you're making a choice to listen today is, I think, a step in the right direction to make a better world. There's just so much noise and craziness out there. I mean, my story started out before the time of the internet, and if you didn't meet somebody that lived within 10 or 15 minutes of you, you basically didn't meet them. So you didn't have a very, unbiased view of the world. Like, you kind of grew up around the people you grew up around. I grew up relatively lower middle class, and there were a lot of things going on in the neighborhood: drugs, alcohol, etc., fights, things like that we don't have to get into all the nitty gritty, but it was challenging for that reason. My parents didn't have a lot of money. My dad was a truck driver, ended up getting hurt on the job when I was 2 years old. Couldn't really work again after that. So mom had to leave to get work, and she was working in like delis and things. She got not a corporate job. I'm sorry, like a government job working in the court system as a like a bailiff, I guess you'd call it, like a court officer.
Okay.
So she had to leave to go to the city and left us out on Long Island. So I'd see her, sometimes on weekends, and mostly it was myself and my dad who, would stay up all night, doing whatever he's doing. And I had to get myself up and go to school in the morning and get my breakfast in, and like just poor food, poor quality, interactions, and not really a whole lot of, great adult role models around, unfortunately. So growing up was a little rough, but things started to turn around for me. After I moved out of my dad's house, I got more on a good track. I got into college finally, even though, my dad didn't finish college. My mom never went, except to like community college. So that was like kind of a big deal to go to college, get that figured out. And I ended up doing pretty well and transitioning into, I was supposed to be a medical doctor. So I got like,
Really?
biology degree and all that stuff. Yeah. But I think the first time that I was ever really excited about investing, or I saw like the potential of investing, was when I was around 16 years old. So like, again, my dad didn't really have much financial sophistication. It turned out that my grandfather had been left a bunch of stocks from my great uncle that were like Bell Telephone and Standard Oil and like all these really big companies from back in the day that all got broken up or, changed into a bunch of different companies. So he ended up having like this portfolio account, which probably started out as a few $100 in like the 30s from his great uncle, that by the 90s or early 2000s was worth a couple $1 million.
Wow.
So it's pretty interesting to see how like a small investment held for a long time with dividends and compounding, it was like this fun treasure hunt that we had to go on to find all this stuff that my grandfather owned at all these different brokerages, because nothing was centralized back then. So it was really interesting. I was part of that. So that was the first time I ever saw like the potential. And I started reading more about like, okay, well, there's ways to make money that don't involve your time. Because up until that point, I had only ever had jobs like working on a shooting range and mowing lawns and, things along that line. Working in restaurants. So like I always equated time to money. And that was the first time that I saw like, oh, wait a second, money can be independent of time. And not only that, there are people who are wealthy enough, they have enough money where they'll never have to work again. And that was the position my grandfather was in. He wasn't like mega uber wealthy like we think about Elon Musk, but he had enough money where he could pay all his bills and still not have to worry about working. So that was pretty interesting to me. I read all the regular books like The Rich Dad, Poor Dad, stuff like that. Went to school, wanted to be a doctor really bad. Turned out that wasn't for me, and ended up pivoting into eventually real estate. Like I was a bartender for a while in New York City. There's a lot of kind of leaving out here.
Yeah.
And I just remember another kind of brush with finance was all the bankers would come in like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday and drop, $2,000-$3,000 on their corporate card. And they'd work for companies like Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers and Goldman Sachs and all these different ones. And they would walk to the office and just, throw a bunch of money around. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, and then all of a sudden that all went away. So like, that was my first introduction to the markets in a sense of like, okay, this can be like a real, there's a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and this can be a real, crazy time that we live in.
And that was when you were a bartender?
Yeah, I was a bartender in New York. So I was making like, really good money, cash, just being a chucklehead basically and drinking it all away. So then that all went away overnight because the economy collapsed, and it was like the wind had been sucked out of New York City. So here I am trying to find a job. I'm like 21, 22 years old. I maybe got 10 grand in the bank, of all the money that I'd made. I kept very little. I realized like, okay, now it's time to like switch gears a little bit and get into a new thing. And I always heard the old Warren Buffett quote, when everybody's running out of the room, you should be running into the room. I decided that, hey, I'm going to downsize. I'm going to learn a skill and I'm going to go into Wall Street. Cause that was the only place that would hire at that time. They basically, if you had a pulse and could talk, they would allow you to do cold calls and stuff. So I got this apartment in Harlem on 116th Street. I would take the 2 train all the way down to Wall Street every morning. I get up at like 4, be in the office by 6. And they would have me call like 500 people in the UK until noon or so. I'd take a quick break, get a new tie because I'd probably spilled coffee on it by that point. And I'd call the US from like 12 to 5. And then people would stay and call like Australia and other places at night. I decided to hedge my bets and get a real estate license. And I didn't last very long on Wall Street. I think I lasted there maybe a month or so before I got my real estate license. And then I got recruited by Bond New York, which is a really cool real estate firm at the time. They'd only been around maybe 6 or 7 years. 2 guys from Philly, Bruno and Noah were their names. And they really took a liking to me. So they gave me a lot of promotions, a lot of help. Nelson, my boss, my direct boss, was really good at training. So it was the first time I ever learned like an entrepreneurial type job. I was, putting advertising out with my own money and generating leads and making sales and negotiating with these big billion-dollar landlords and kind of working through all the aspects of a deal. And I got really good at that. I was good at working with people. And within 2 years, I had 5 promotions. I had 6 people working under me. And then my dad passed away. So that was the first time I was ever getting to a point where I was stable. But I wasn't like, I hadn't worked through all my own stuff. I hadn't worked through all the emotional, hangover from my childhood. I hadn't worked through
Yeah.
like the physical stuff. I'd been in really good shape in college. I was rowing crew, but like I let myself go. I was probably 20, 30 pounds overweight at this point. My dad died. I saw this as an opportunity to like get back on track because he had a little bit of money left over from my grandfather. Unfortunately, not as much as it was when he gave it, but enough where like I could take a little bit of time off, which in retrospect was a mistake. If you ever get a windfall like that, you should probably keep working is my best advice for people. But it was like the first time where I had enough money to be like, okay, let me see if I could back off here and figure out how I'm not going to have to work again. That was like a really important thing to me. So fast forward a little bit, I ended up trying all these different things. I started a business that went nowhere. I lost $44,000, $45,000, something like that, trying to sell, real estate education, but I was competing against, like I wanted to get people to get apartments without broker fees because broker fees are like 15% in New York at that time.
Okay.
Expensive. So on top of rent and, first down and maybe a little bit more because you need a security deposit, you're talking about, 15% is like 2 months of rent on top of that. And that was how we got paid. So like, I wanted to help people avoid that. This goes straight to the real estate, landlords. Right. So that kind of failed because I didn't do enough market research to realize like, oh man, it's going to be really expensive to compete with keywords where like Corcoran or Prudential is going to pay $8 a click for these keywords. And my product's like $200 and their commission is like 10,000 plus, so they're going to pay a lot more obviously for these leads. So there's like little things like that I didn't realize. Craigslist shut all our ads down. I did a test where I got like 10,000 people interested in this thing. And then,
what year was this around?
Say again.
What year was this around?
This had to be like 2009, 10,
okay.
10, 11, maybe. I don't know, somewhere in there.
Okay.
So I'm like figuring stuff out. And, like any biz op type person, I think I tried a bunch of stuff and where I thought had an edge or I felt like I emotionally was able to deal was with trading. And that was the thing that like always somehow made sense to me is like, everybody gets so emotional about trading. They get really greedy. They get FOMO. They're always chasing the market up. And then they turn around and they freak out when it starts to plummet. Right. And that's like the exact opposite of how you need to behave in order to make money. That's why 95+% of people in the market don't make money. End up becoming exit liquidity for people who can manage their emotions. I'm not saying that's a perfect strategy, but like, if you could just do that, is just be selling when people are buying and buying when people are selling. Yeah, probably do okay, right? Just generally over the long term. And, I'm not, I just want to preface this entire conversation with, I'm not acting as a financial advisor. I'm not giving anybody financial advice. I am working on my RA, which is a Series 65 designation.
I saw that.
Yeah. So that's really exciting, but I got to be clear, like this is not
100%
specific or investment advice, consultant financial advisor. I'm just speaking about my story and what I experienced. So I traded equities, I traded options, I traded penny stocks. I ended up really taking a liking to this group that I joined. Shout out to Sang Lucci and Charlie Bathgate and all those guys that work over there, Haim Bodek, Peter, and all those great guys. So they were like these traders who, my whole life I had been getting advice from mentors. And the real estate mentor says, oh, don't trade stocks. It's too risky, invest in real estate. And the stock guy is like, don't invest in real estate. It's a pain in the ass, toilets, tenants, etc. And then my trading mentor is like, bitch, don't kill my vibe. Do whatever you want. Just don't complain about it. Right. You got an opportunity here. This guy like came from India. He grew up painting houses and hawking tickets to get enough money to trade, had a huge trade in Citigroup when it turned around on 2008, 2009, whatever it was, and made like a couple $1,000,000. And now he's teaching other people how to do it. But the thing I loved about it is he was mega transparent. Like every single P&L, every single day of trading, he would put up on Twitter for anybody to see. Wow. And I thought that was really cool at the time. And since they've like moved to Puerto Rico, they started trading crypto. So it's been a really interesting thing to watch. But like, that was the first time I was ever in a room with people with like real money who were making real trading decisions throughout the day. And that kind of felt good. And it gave me a little bit more of an edge on the market than I had before. Yeah. And now those are pretty common. Like you can find a trading room or trading education anywhere you want to go. And there's a million different markets you can trade in. It really comes down to where do you think you have an edge and where can you execute a strategy that has that edge consistently over time without emotion. And that's what trading is. That's the game. And if you can do that really well, you can be in the 5% or so that make money. If not, you have no business trading. You should think about something more like, dollar cost averaging or investing in a more balanced portfolio with diversified risk and focusing on making more money. Yeah. Like you're going to get rich way faster making more money than you ever are by trying to hit, grand slams in the marketplace. Yeah, those will happen, but they're not usually planned. They just kind of happen as a function of executing your strategy consistently over time. So that's what I tell a lot of folks, that have a high income is like, don't stress too much about investing. It's important, but find somebody like me who can help you manage it versus, taking your eye off the ball, which is if you're racking 5 million a year, personal income, like you're going to get rich way faster than, even if you make a lot of mistakes investing, you're going to get rich way faster than if you had focused on just investing and had a lower income. So that's kind of the first lesson there. But yeah, so I had a couple of cool experiences. I got to travel around the world. I got to meet some of my heroes like Tim Ferriss and Neil Strauss and Sir Richard Branson. Actually, Sir Richard Branson at this small mastermind with maybe 12 people got really interested in this 3D printing idea that I had, and wanted me to reach out to him and talk to him about it. That ended up going anywhere at that point. But the cool thing that came out of it is I told the story to somebody who had a Forbes column, and he had me write about it in Forbes. So here I am. I'm this 26-year-old kid, and I'm writing in Forbes about 3D printing stocks. Meanwhile, I had written a list of everybody I'd ever talked to about this kind of stuff. And on that list was Tim Ferriss. I'd spent 10 days with him in Africa, and he ends up tweeting my article out, and 300,000 people read it, like all these Silicon Valley investors. And the stocks that I mentioned end up going up like crazy. And this is not planned, by the way. I had no idea. Like I was just talking about some stuff I own. I was totally disclosed, like, hey, I own this stuff. It's interesting to me. I think 3D printing is going to be a really big deal in the future. And everybody seemed to agree. And the stocks went up like 10x in the next 18 months. So it's wild, right? And some of the people who had read the article who knew me reached out, like one guy specifically, he's like, hey man, I just paid for my wedding with that stock tip. I'm like, I didn't give you a stock tip. I just wrote about it in Forbes. So kind of inadvertently that happened. But this has gone back 10 years now. So that was the first time I was ever like approached by people like, hey, you seem to have a lot of talent for this. Why don't you manage my money? You wanted to give me money to manage. And I had no idea what that looked like. Again, remember my background had nothing to do with finance. I'm kind of figuring it out from the outside in, and I wasn't licensed or anything like that. And I got some, in retrospect, bad advice at the time, but it worked out okay. Was that I didn't need a license or anything like that. And now I know that not to be true, which is why I'm getting my license now to run my next fund, which I can talk about later. Which is, just go get a hedge fund together. You qualify for this exemption, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe at the time that was the law. I don't know. But like my lawyer now says I was probably in the wrong, but you live and you learn, you try to do your best with the information you have. So long story short, I ended up launching a hedge funds, raised money from 17 people, again, made a list of people that might give me money. Back in the day, there was no real internet marketing type stuff, was just getting started. So it was mostly like cold calling and talking to people that I already knew. But I ended up raising, $500,000, something like that. Not too crazy in the beginning. And then we grew it over time. And within the first year, we had 106% return trading equities and options. Wow. Yeah. So that was cool. And everybody's really happy. And the years came by and went, and I was just like, you know what, this is awesome, but I'm spending all my time behind a computer screen, drinking a ton of coffee and freaking out. Like, I don't know if I want to do this for the next 10, 20 years. And the other thing that happened was like, I was making money, but then I wanted to like go raise real capital, because $1 million or whatever is not a lot of money in hedge fund land. So I wanted to raise like, eight figures plus. And everybody who had given me money for the first round was now not interested, because they're like, well, you're up this much this year. What happens when you're down 50% next year? Like they couldn't equate the risk with the reward strategy. So like, what I realized is they had more to lose than to gain. And that's really another big lesson, is like, if you're going to play with people, make sure that they understand what you're doing and that they're the right people. Because there's plenty of people that'll write that check that are happy to take on risk, but they have to have, different portfolios, different kind of strategies. So, it's a different type of investor, right? It's a different quality or sophistication of investor that you're looking for. Not that, I'm casting aspersions to anybody who doesn't want to take on a lot of risk. I get that, but like, there's, different ways to go about it. So, the long story short there is I got my name on the street. I got a little bit of a track record going. It was really interesting. We had like $1 million month, 1 month, which was really cool. Wow. Between the fund and the fund I was partnered with. Yeah, that was awesome in profit. So I was like, this is great. And I'm kind of burned out and this isn't for me anymore. And I broke the fuse of like, oh, I grew up my whole life thinking I would never make any money. And then I did make a lot of money, and it wasn't all my money certainly, but all of a sudden I realized what was possible, more than I ever thought was possible. And it just kind of like broke the spell where I was like, oh, well, what is life really about? If I'm still the same person, miserable, broke, whatever, depressed, I don't know, whatever you want to insert adjective here, that I was before after making all this money, because it's a mindset really. Like if I'm still that person, then what's life really about? So I switched gears for a few years. I started a coaching and marketing company after I got into a lot of Tony Robbins personal development type stuff. Yeah. And I did that for a while. And I just failed forward. I sucked ass for a while. I couldn't sell. I couldn't market. I couldn't do anything. So eventually I had to learn those skills. I got pretty good at it. Yeah. Now I've been running my marketing company for like 8 years, and it's still consistently one of the most challenging things I've had to do, but it's at a place now where like, it's not all on me, right? I have a great team and things kind of happen more consistently without my direct input, which is great. And I've learned a lot about how to manage and lead people as a result of that. So that's been a really beautiful experience. And it kind of led me to my next iteration. Like I had a couple marketing agencies, I sold one, shut one down. I had, a couple experiences like being a huge affiliate for Tony and raising money and doing that. That was great. Although financially it didn't pan out as well as we'd hoped because of the COVID epidemic. It was definitely a cool experience to be a top 10 affiliate and all that and get to meet Tony and spend time with him. And that's really beautiful. So you can't predict the future. You just got to make the best bet that you know how to make at the time you know how to make it. And it's not about any one bet. And it's not about betting the farm every time. It's like, how can I consistently move the ball forward with a percentage of my resources, whether it be time, energy, intention, money, consistently make the best bet, given the edge and the odds and whatever probability of success that I have at that time. Look for asymmetrical bets. Certainly, if you can find one that's theoretically, if you're sitting in the risk chair and you see something that's 100% surety with 100% edge, or whatever, that's like you bet infinity, but those don't come around very often. There's maybe one of those trades every 10 years. So most of the time it's like, there's a function of percent, there's a function of probability, and there's a function of edge. And when you calculate that out, you can kind of decide in real time, like, okay, how big do I want to go on this kind of thing? So for me, it's really about being around the right people. And I'm always willing to overinvest in being in the right groups of people and the right networks. And as a result, I've built a really beautiful network of wonderful people that are willing to support me no matter what I do. So that's like a really cool place to be. If I get into crypto, if I get into real estate, if I get into whatever, stocks, building companies, selling companies, buying companies, I have the people already, which is wonderful.
I love that.
Yeah. And that's really the thing that I've strove to keep and protect. I heard a really great saying recently. It's like, it takes a long time to build a reputation. It's made out of glass. You can shatter it at any moment.
Who agree?
So everything I do, whether, win, lose or draw, everything I do is meant to protect reputation at all costs, but not to the point where like I'm freaking out about it or worried about it, but more to the point of like, I really want to do right by people and I want to play the long game. Win, lose or draw. It's like, hey, we all knew the risks going in. We do risky shit, but we all know, that's what it is. So what I don't want is to end up in a place where, people feel like I, lied to them or mistreated them or did something I wasn't supposed to do. And that's why it's really important to me to build enterprises that, are completely transparent. Like I talk about everything, good, bad, and ugly, whether it be marketing, whether it be investing, what have you. I'm always, not every day, I'm not like a maniac, but every time I write something I believe is the whole truth. That's subject to debate, but that's how I feel. And that lets me sleep at night. That lets me feel like I'm doing my thing. So, the latest, what we're doing, I've written a couple of books. I've got a book on masterminds. You can check it out at 8minutemastermind.com. If that's something that you want to do, add, money to your business or profit to your business in 5-10 hours a month, we can usually help you do that. Yeah. And then for investing, I wrote a book called 8-Minute Money Manager, kind of talking about all my experiences and what I generally recommend for folks to think about, different buckets and strategies, risk, growth, security, all that good stuff, is called 8-Minute Money Manager. That's at 8minutemoneymanager.com. And then, we're working on becoming the first crypto RIA is in the works, again, subject to change based on regulations and all that crazy stuff. But we're also working on a crypto fund. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
That is super rad, Brad. I've never actually heard your whole story. So thank you for all that. Cause I think what really you just proved right there, especially in the first couple minutes, was that you really hit home on a topic of leadership and of really the noise that's out there. But when you just sit down and listen to you, it's not noise. Like you have so much knowledge and experience in this certain in investments. And that's why I really got drawn to you. I don't want to compare you to like, I but I kind of want to compare you. Like you're just like almost, I would compare you to Gary V with your knowledge and your heart and your drive. So I just want to say thank you for being you and just being open and always here to help people. And yeah, of course, it just totally rings true. I don't know why I was so hesitant on comparing you to Gary V, probably because he's like Gary V, but I 100%, 100%.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever work as hard as that guy does, but that's fine.
But it's like, because there is so much noise and those people out there that truly do care, that have so much knowledge. I'm like, that's a good person. So thank you for being you, Brad, with all of your knowledge.
And I think the more I've met people of that ilk, the folks that I look up to, and they never meet your heroes because you realize they're actually human, and a lot of them are really screwed up. You got to realize like everybody's giving you the advice that works for them. They're not lying to you.
Yeah.
Right. Like Gary Vee's method works for Gary Vee, and it probably works for other people too, but not everybody, certainly.
Yeah.
And Tim Ferriss's method works for Tim Ferriss, and Richard Branson's method works for Richard Branson. Lauren Glick's method works for Lauren Glick. And it's like we're all the sum of the decisions and experiences that we've made, and a little bit of luck thrown in for good measure, because you couldn't have it all be perfect, right? But even in the luck, there's lessons, right? Sometimes a bad thing, quote unquote, happening is lucky because it teaches you the thing you really needed to learn in order to become the person you need to become to have the things that you ultimately wanted to have. And that's kind of how the world works. So anytime I meet somebody now, after meeting a lot of really wonderful people over the years, whether you've heard them or not, is like, what's the thing that this person is trying to teach me through, the universe, right? If you will, like we're not really individuals. We're all this collective, but we're expressed as different individuals. And through that, the universe speaks to us. So if you're moving in a direction and you have stated goals and your vibration or whatever alignment is moving you towards that, well, then the people that are showing up are all expressions of that. They're all there to teach you whatever the thing is, even if it's small and petty, or you need to learn it, or you've learned it 50 times before, or, you're annoyed by it. It's like, that's the lesson. And the more smoothly all that goes, and the way that you handle it goes smoothly versus resistance, is kind of an indication of whether you're ready or not for the thing that you're asking for, or maybe you have a lot of work to do to clean up and get ready, So it's an interesting thing. And I just want you to keep learning from people and not get too hung up on any one person's lessons, because they're all through their experience and their lens and their skills and their, particular lot in life. Right. And it changes as they evolve. Right. I'm sure Gary Vee 10 years ago is using a very different playbook than Gary Vee today.
Yeah.
And that's just a function of his life evolution, and also the times and technology that we have access to and the opportunities. Like crypto, I got involved when, it was pretty straightforward, and, Bitcoins were cheap and nobody's really talking about it. I think I got my first Bitcoins under $100. I was looking at it as like 5 cents. I wish I bought it then, but maybe I would have held on to it. Maybe I wouldn't have. It was very difficult to secure back then.
Yeah.
Ethereum, I got into pretty early too. It was in like $8 with buying my first Ethereum. So that was exciting. And now both of those have become incredible investments for the long term. The thing with crypto now though, is like everything that's available can be hacked, duplicated, copied immediately, because it's all on the blockchain. So like if there's a smart contract for a DeFi platform, or not games to the same extent, but like anything on the blockchain is relatively public domain.
Yeah.
So everybody's going to hack that and change that. So like your windows of opportunity in these NFTs and different things now is a lot shorter, I believe, because anybody can come away and like, if there's a certain amount of demand in the marketplace, that will be taken up very quickly. And if they find a little niche that hasn't been, that window of opportunity hasn't been taken, like 10 people are going to copy them that day. It's like crazy how fast it's moving. So
interesting.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know that the buy and hold strategy has worked for me for most of my life. Like up until now, until this asset class, I've been thinking like, okay, if I can just hold on to all my bets, de-risk them, take out my principal and just hold on to them forever. Well, let's just look back at the history of that. Like I bought Tesla at $22 at 1,000 shares. Had I just held on to that, it'd be $6 million, right? Or whatever, $5 million. Bitcoin at under $100 did really well, but still, like if I had held all of it, much better. Ethereum at $8, what has it been up to 4,600 at this point? I've sold some, I've recapped some, I bought a house, all that stuff. But like, you just don't know. And you're not sure like what's going to actually win. So I think the strategy that behooves people in the crypto markets a little bit better. Again, there's just not enough data to tell long-term, but like, it feels like spreading it around and taking profits when profits are available might be a better strategy, even with the tax implications of that.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing so many things go up very quickly and go right back down, and like end up worse than where they started. So like, the idea of buying and holding forever now, whereas a company would continue to grow and has an incentive to do that, with some of these projects, they don't, right? They're going to cut and run. So you got to kind of know what you're dealing with. You're not dealing with Fortune 500 companies. You're dealing with a couple of coders that are going to get, shiny object syndrome very quickly.
And that's really good advice, Brad, because on, TikTok and Instagram, you have so much noise of like, this is how you get rich. And I don't know why it's all over my Instagram. Maybe it's because I do some research on the internet about it and they hear it through the internet gods. I don't know how they do, but there is so much noise out there about cryptocurrency. And before we get into that, I would really like to talk about how you got into Bitcoin and Ethereum at such an early stage.
Yeah, it's just a function of people I was around.
I figured.
Again, that's really all it is like, if you're around people that are always geeking out on what the next cool thing is, and you're going to hear about it. And as long as you have the courage, right? We're talking about confidence on this podcast. As long as you have the courage to try it and like dive in with both feet and test it out. Like, and I'm not talking with huge amounts of money or taking a huge risk, but like understanding how it works so that you can have an opinion about it that is educated. So that when you see something that's out of balance in the marketplace, you know how to respond to it.
I love it.
When everybody's just getting their feet under them and trying to understand what the hell's going on, you already have like a studied opinion on it.
And I think that's so strong because there is so much talk about crypto and NFTs right now. And to have that knowledge and foundation, I've been doing a lot of research for the past couple of months because I don't know what the hell it's all about. I invest in real estate and stocks, and that's what I'm comfortable with. And
there's something to be said for that too, is like, go where you have the most edge.
Yeah.
Because you understand it the best.
Understood. And it's like and it goes back to that noise thing. There's so much noise on social media and internet about crypto. So as you were saying, and that's the first time I've heard that, Brad, of crypto is easily hacked, especially with all these new.
I wouldn't say it's easily hacked. It is in some cases if people, but it really comes down to the person holding it. Like, how secure are they? How well do they understand cybersecurity? So that's really the biggest factor. Like, the biggest threat to any crypto is you, right? The holder. So that's that. But I guess what I was trying to say is that they're easily duplicated, meaning like if somebody comes along with a new feature or something that hasn't been done before, well, that contract is now on the blockchain. Anybody can see it. It's not like it's on a server somewhere at Microsoft that they would have to hack in to get the internal code or IP or whatever. It's all out there. So people being able to duplicate and replicate is very quick now. Yeah.
And those new people that are duplicating it that could possibly not have the best intentions.
Exactly. So like, you'll see, punks come out and then there's 200 other punk, variants and they're worthless essentially. Right. But the reason that they did is because of punks. Or, to use a different example, like when people started burning NFTs as part of their their strategy to like raise the value, they would burn them if they were on the floor, and they would use, some of the money in the, then 20 other people did that and then it was useless. Right. There's just not enough utility to keep people in value, to keep people around. So the projects that really win, they're doing something that's never been done before, but they're doing it in a way that's like, sustainable, and they keep pushing the ball forward and changing the game.
Yeah.
And even those, like, I've never seen an NFT or game project come back from just completely circling the drain to like back to thriving to where it was. Like, I just don't know that, maybe I'm wrong, and I'd like to see some more cycles, but I don't know that Axie is going to come back and like you're going to see 30-cent SLP again and $150 AXS. And if I'm wrong, great, but I just haven't seen it, so I can't plan on that. The same thing with insurance and crypto. My friends ask me, well, can't you get insurance on your DeFi portfolio in case it craps out? I'm like, yeah, but a lot of the big funds, like I'm talking this $80 million fund that invests in DeFi, it costs them 3% to put of whatever money they're putting in, to insure their portfolio. But then they also never put more than 2 or 3% into a bet at first anyway. So like, it would cost more for them to insure it than it would cost to actually lose the money. Right.
Yeah.
Because they're so diversified. And on top of that, I've never seen any insurance policies paid out. Right. Like life insurance.
Because it's such a new space. How are they even insuring it right now?
Right. So like, they're taking on risk. Sure. You can write policies all day long, but who knows if those policies will ever pay out, if those companies will actually make good on the promises or can make good on the promises that they make.
Yeah.
But like, if it was life insurance, I'd say, yeah, that's got 150, 200 year track record. All these companies pay out all the time. They've got, a ton of money on their books. It's all publicly audited. Like, that's a pretty sure bet versus like some crypto insurance that just came out with the block, unless it's like Lloyd's of London or some place like that. And it's legit, like, because anybody can say anything on the internet too. Like, actually digging into these things and verifying these claims is challenging at best, So I always tell people like, hey, when I see it happen, then I'll account it in the model. But until then, it's an unknown, right? I just can't account for it. So you can't prove that anything's going to happen. You just see what is happening. And what I see is happening is like NFTs get popular, they blow up, they go for, 5, 10, 15, 20 ETH. Some of them go higher and a lot of them crash and they don't come back. Right?
Interesting.
Unless they find like a secondary market, like Bored Ape Yacht Club is thriving, I feel, because celebrities it's like the new flex for celebrities.
Yeah.
That might be like the hardest money in crypto right now. I don't know, but like most people, it's irrelevant because they can't afford one.
And that's so interesting, Brad, because I've been watching and learning about NFTs, and when things go skyrocketing, like I've been watching a lot of NFTs about all women based NFTs. Like if you've heard of, God, there's a
World of
number of,
Women.
yes, and then there's new ones like Women Rise and um gosh, Boss Bay Boss Beauties is another one that like skyrockets. It's and don't mind my terminology for NFTs,
No,
Brad,
no,
because
you're
I'm
fine.
so brand new on them. But it minted, oh gosh, a while ago. I want to say a couple months ago, and I've been watching it on OpenSea. And literally this past weekend, it raised about 2 ETH.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm like, my friends bought in right before it. And of course, I'm a little bit conservative because I don't know the space. I don't exactly
Sure.
know. I don't want to throw a lot of money into this when my money's doing fine somewhere else. So it's interesting that you said that. So I'll definitely keep that more into my mind. And it's all about, the confidence in the knowledge and the experience. And that's why I really get drawn to you and your experience, because you have so flipping much of it. And that's so interesting. You say that they skyrocket and then there's nothing there. I
Well,
mean,
yeah. So there always has to be in any market, there has to
yeah,
be a reason for somebody to buy it higher than you did. So they have to have
exactly.
a thesis or a theory or a conviction or just be crazy enough to buy it higher than you did. So they have to have the
This is true.
ability to buy it and they have to have the desire to buy it.
Mm,
And as you go higher in numbers and anything, that becomes less of an issue. And since NFTs are not divisible down to like, a stock level, like you can't buy 0.001 of something, right?
yeah.
Got to buy the whole thing or not. Like how many people are going to buy $500,000 NFTs and continue to drive the price up?
I know.
Really,
And
like in the
that's,
world, like how many are there?
well, and
Honestly,
that's the
like
thing.
maybe there's tens of thousands of people, but not all of them are going to do it.
And that's what my thought was, is like, where is this really going? I understand it's a community based um investment, and what the project is doing is what you're basically kind of, well, at least for the, and there's so many different, there's like games, and then there's like this, so it's like, how would you even, it's just such an interesting world to
Yeah.
me that I haven't quite,
So
like,
the market needs to grow,
yeah,
and you're gonna have people that get burned as it grows because they're coming in not knowing what they're doing. They're gonna get their asses handed to them. Like
yeah,
the people who are really have tight rules, like myself. Hopefully, hopefully I don't
yeah.
make any major mistakes. But like I'm hopefully gonna stick around and continue to play the cycles. But even I'm like as a professional, I feel like it keeps me up at night a little bit because just how volatile these things are.
Yeah.
And there's very little that can be done to assuage that volatility. So I'm like more thinking, okay, if I'm going to go long term, like how do I do more of a barbell strategy? What I mean by
Which is
that is like,
what, yeah.
so a barbell strategy is like Nassim Taleb. He says basically put 80% of your stuff in very conservative investments that generate cash flow, and then use the
Mhm.
rest of it, the cash flow and that other 20% to build, kind of more in risk into it. So like
Yeah.
if the risk pays out, you're ahead of the game. But if it doesn't pay out, then the 80% like kind of takes it back to normal at the over a certain amount of time. So like, in crypto, the equivalent of that, again, not financial advice,
Yeah.
would be something along the lines of like a lot of DeFi protocols. You can split it up into however many you want based on the risk so that you don't get clocked out by a complete, loss on a platform. Would
Yeah.
be like, 8 to 20%, somewhere in that range that they'll pay. And all that really is like, collateralized lending and exchange fees on various platforms. That's, a business model that's as old as time, right? So
Mhm.
instead of a bank that gives you 0.5% or 1%, you're going to get, 8 to 12 or 15 or whatever it is percent. And you can do leverage on that, but it's relatively stable. And if you spread it out over multiple platforms, you're in pretty good shape. Right.
Mm.
So I might put 80% into that. So like, even if I lose the other 20% on, Wild West type stuff, I'm in a good position because I can make that back in a year or so, right? Or 2 years,
Yeah.
right? Wherever I'm at. So I focus on first not losing, but then with that 20%, if I start to win, if I double that money, triple that money, then I have a bigger little bit of a pot where I can either recap and put more of that into DeFi. And, now we're above 100% and growing, or, I can continue to play that money knowing that, again, 80% of my stuff is relatively stable. So that's
Mm.
probably, in my opinion, again, not having back tested this or run the
Yeah.
strategy forever.
Understood.
But as I'm learning more, I'm realizing like, okay, well, there's obviously money to be made. There's obviously
Yeah.
outsized returns and asymmetric returns to be made. So like I can make 10, 15, 20 bets and have most of them not pan out, but still be ahead. And that's basically what I did from like August of this year I'm mostly dollar cost averaging into the big coins. And then
Yeah.
this year I decided to diversify out. So I took my ETH stash and I basically 2.5x'd it inside of 3 months,
Wow.
which is great. But even last year, just dollar cost averaging, I was up 700% because from 2017 to 2020, that's all I did was buy. So like 2020, 2021, it just went up like crazy.
Yeah.
So basically like, going forward, I'm not sure that buying and holding is going to work as well. It may or
Mhm.
may not. It just remains to be seen. I think that easy money kind of just getting into it is maybe gone. Because
Yeah.
ETH really didn't perform as well this year. Bitcoin didn't really perform as well this year. I don't know that it's going to
Mhm.
be that easy just to buy a coin and hold. And now it might be more of like some in DeFi, some into Yahoo strategies and just taking profits whenever you can on the Yahoo stuff. And if you lose, well, hopefully it's more like a portfolio theory where even if 1 in 20 pays out, it pays out so big that it doesn't matter.
Mm. And the next question is, Brad, is that I guess that we already kind of went over it because you are taking your tests shortly and
Yeah.
becoming a is it technically called
Yes,
a
registered
financial
investment
advisor?
advisor. Yeah. So technically, it's a license so that I can take custody of funds. I can trade
Cool.
securities for people. I can take discretionary authority over accounts. I don't want to really do any of that for securities, and
Mm.
crypto is not a security yet. So we'll see how these regulations go. I'm just being conservative based on like what we're trying to do. Like that's the license that kind of fits most of the boxes of what I want to do,
Mm.
even though it's not really tailor made for what I'm trying to do because nothing is, right? We're figuring it
Yeah,
out as we go. So I'm working with
100%.
as many lawyers as I can. I'm talking to SEC, talking to the fund administrator. I'm talking to the administrator in Arizona where we're located. Like I'm just trying to figure all this stuff out, and
But
there's no
Brad, that is
guidance.
so rad. And that's why I think that I am so drawn to you is because you do everything like by the book and you're conservative
I
and
try. Who
you
knows,
really
right?
try to help people too. And that's why I'm like, I was
Yeah.
talking to JJ. JJ is what is JJ to you? He's
Yeah,
uh
JJ's a great guy. He came
yep,
in through our challenge or
yep,
mastermind challenge,
yep,
and he's been like in PR for a long time.
yeah,
He was like the PR agent for Meatloaf and a bunch of really big acts for a long
yeah,
time. And yeah, he built, and this is all stories he'll tell you too. So
yeah.
I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, but he built this huge
No, you
PR
told me some
company
stories.
where like, I think they cashed out for like 120 million bucks. So he was
Yeah,
sitting on like, 8 figures of a payout with his
yeah,
partners and then proceeded to lose most of it over the following years. And it was,
yeah.
basically starting over again when I met him.
And you kind of
Um,
work together right
yeah,
now,
so
right?
he basically, I believe JJ's skill sets are like leveraging relationships and PR to build
Mhm.
businesses, and he's just god awful at investing. So like he gets a lot of benefit from being around me because I'll be
I
real
love
like
it.
about my
Yeah.
skills. I don't know that I'm the best at making money, but I'm pretty
Yeah.
good at keeping it and making it into more money.
And
That's what I focus on.
and that's so rad. And I love that you're very clear about what you're good at. And there's a lot of it, especially investing, Brad.
Yeah, well,
And the fact that you're talking to attorneys and you're getting your licensing to help other people, I think that's so important. And that's
yeah.
why I told JJ to put me on your list because I'm like, you're the only person that I know has so much knowledge behind all of these things that I would trust with investing in
Well, I
it.
appreciate that. And win, lose, or draw, it's
Yeah,
about learning. Like that's the most
100%.
important thing. We're not here forever. And if
No.
we can learn how to act in, because nothing is really that new. When you really go back in
Yeah.
history and you kind of study the lessons of the past, the edge I have is that I study history and I've studied all these markets and all these asset classes. And I'm just
Yeah.
like mixing and matching what I already know to see what is new and what is just like hyperbole and bullshit. Because
Yeah.
everybody says everything's going to the moon. And it's true. Like it's like it's just not true. Like
It's
most
like,
of it's
where's
not.
it all going? Thank you, Brad,
Right.
for being honest.
Well, and like, there are certain investments that will outperform,
Yeah,
relative to other investments, but to find those, it's like sifting through a lot of dirt to get a few chunks of gold.
exactly. Because you're like on Coinbase, right? And you have all these new projects that are
Of
going
course.
on.
Yeah.
And you're like, look at this one. It raised like 100 point or whatever, however you say it. Like the
Sure.
new on Bitcoin, I mean, Coinbase, you have the bottom, like, look at all these new coins. Look how they're performing today. And you're like, holy shit, that raised like 100%. I have to buy into that because you're buying in on emotion. So it's like, boy,
Yeah, I
like,
want to be in before that happens. I want to find them before
exactly.
that happens, right? That's when I can, okay, I'm up 100%. Let me take some of my principal off. Maybe it goes up some more. I take some more off. And eventually I'm at a point where I've de-risked to the point where I don't have anything in the game and it's like, okay, just let it ride. But even that is turning out in retrospect in crypto anyway, not to be the best strategy because they're so easy to duplicate. It's not like
Yeah.
there's a moat, right? Microsoft has a moat. Google has a moat. Amazon has a moat. Apple has a moat. If you're investing in those
Mm,
companies, they have the money to fight in their arena for a very long time. And I'm not saying they're going to
understood.
continue to rise, but I'm saying that like it's been a good bet over 30 years. I don't know that any of these crypto coins are going to be a good bet over 30 years or even
Mm,
around in 30 years. And NFT projects, I'm less, considerate of, I think games will become a bigger section of the market. I think more gaming will happen, especially when people realize they can make money with games. But I've
yeah.
yet to see one that can sustainably create an ecosystem. Think about how hard it is to create a game first and foremost,
Yeah.
let alone get the economy side of it right, the tokenomic side of it right. How do you you're essentially operating as like the Federal Reserve and the Treasury inside your little world, right?
Yeah.
And how do you create monetary policy that's actually sound and reasonable? And we've seen all this stuff play out on a large scale over hundreds of years. You can study all the lessons, but printing inflationary tokens forever doesn't work. Eventually
Yeah.
they crash, right? Making assets that have no real, scarcity doesn't work, right?
Mm.
That's why a lot of people buy land. They get land. There's only so much land in the smart contract. There'll only ever be so much land. And that's what they do, right? So I don't know. It's interesting to see how people are trying to create this stuff, but
Mm.
I have yet to meet somebody or team really that has all the economic fundamentals on lock
Yeah.
and is playing the long game, but also can build a really fun game that people want to play. So
But you did
until that
make
happens, we'll see what happens.
I like that, Brad. And you did make a good point of land scarcity because I mean that's
Yeah.
why I got into real estate. That's what my grandma always told me. We're always
Yeah.
making more people and we're never making more land. And that's the same thing as the metaverse, or what do you call it? The metaverse? Is that what you call it?
Yeah. I mean, any little game can
Yeah.
consider themselves to be part of a metaverse. It's certainly not Facebook's thing. I just wanted to make one more point before I
Yep.
forget it is the idea that any of these assets can be successful in the long term, I think is predicated on the idea okay, well, how many people are going to keep it going?
Yeah.
There's very few, if you look at games historically, that are still played now that were played 10 years ago. I think World of Warcraft might be one that's still.
What about Mario Kart?
Yeah, but I don't know how to bring an economy into that game.
Oh, true.
Where it's going to make sense.
Okay.
Right. So there's these two puzzles.
Oh,
that's
you're
really
talking about in the World of Warcraft. I think my brother used to play that.
Yeah,
Is it
World of
around?
Warcraft. I don't know if you introduced a real economy to that where people could buy and sell stuff, whether it would be as interesting. I think people actually lose sight of what is fun about it and they make it a job and then they grind it out to a point where it's useless.
Mm.
I'm not even sure that the assets will hold up. So I don't know.
I absolutely have loved this conversation today, Brad. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be like this, but so stoked on all your knowledge. And gosh, how do I even wrap this up with one last question?
Well, I'd love to have people come and join my group because I'm just putting out
Yes.
free stuff all the time. And I'm sure
100%.
yeah, it's at nftcryptocommunity.com. So if you just want to understand this stuff and get your feet wet and understand that it's not financial advice, but I'll just kind of show you what is available that you can research and look into.
Is that your Facebook group or do you have another group that is?
That is the Facebook group. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's just an interstitial page or whatever that you go to. It's nftcryptocommunity.com because otherwise it'd be this long googly URL.
Do you have a paid monthly subscription or
not yet?
Okay.
So we're going to launch an RIA. That's the plan. Crypto RIA, pending any issues with that. And then we're also going to launch a fund, but one may not be appropriate for some people and one may not be appropriate for other people. So I won't go too into the details on that or into the weeds. Plus there's a ton of issues around marketing and we can't really market any of this stuff. So I don't want to make any guarantees or reference to any, issues that may be or may not be coming out. I just am saying that's what we're working on. If we can get it right, we'll launch it. And if I think it's worth doing for people, but it seems generally speaking, and I don't want to cast any aspersions, most people have no idea what the F they're talking about.
Yep. Period.
They just don't. And I'm going to be the first one to say, I don't know everything. Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn as much as possible.
But that's why I feel like I trust you because I really trust people that are there is so much flipping knowledge out here, but this is what I know and this is what I've gone through.
Yeah. And you're building a knowledge base, right? And I think we can get smarter together. So that's really, 100%. That was the point of building this group is if I can help people avoid making dumb mistakes and losing money, then that's great.
And another good point about your group is that you're consistently in there telling, if somebody tries to shill or try to give some investment, you're always hey, by the way, this group is not about trying to make investment advice. It's for more just fundamental knowledge.
Yeah, because nobody can be certain about the outcome of any specific thing. I'm talking about generalities, meaning like, I think gaming is going to be a big thing. I think NFTs are going to be whatever, right? I think whatever, so like I'm generally thinking about why these are important to pay attention to. DeFi is changing the way we're going to bank in the future, I believe, so this is worth learning about and understanding the ecosystems, that when you come across, you have some basic knowledge about some of these platforms. So you're not just getting, bamboozled into one platform or one project, because they all could go toast, right? They all go 100%. Toast up.
I absolutely love it, Brad. Is there any last things that where can people find you? I know you said your Facebook group, but like where do you primarily hang out on?
Yeah, I'm big on Facebook. I write a lot of stuff there. We're getting more on YouTube and Medium. Like my company's called Make More Marbles. So if you Google that, you can find all kinds of stuff.
And that's your YouTube channel is Make More
Marbles? Yeah, Make More Marbles. Same on LinkedIn, same on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. I'm not super active on all the platforms, but like Facebook is probably the best place to be. And just join the group, check it out. There's a ton of great content in the guide section. It's all free. And we'll be happy to answer questions, or point you to the right resource to check out what you're looking at.
I absolutely love it, Brad. Is there anything else that you wanted to add today? I know
this has been great, Lauren. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah,
I'm really grateful that people are interested in this stuff. And I think the biggest thing that I'm dealing with right now, and I think it's a good lesson for people, is like, I'm being hit with so much contrarian information all the time. Like just this person says this person says that. Just keep talking to people. Try not to freak out, especially when people say you can't do stuff. They don't know. Nobody knows.
They have no idea.
Nobody knows.
And that's basic. If somebody says you can't do that, it's fear.
Unless the federal effing government say, no, we're going to put you in jail if you do that, then don't do that, certainly. But like, otherwise, like there's a way. If you want to do something, there's a way to figure it out. And it might take time. It might take energy. It might take money. It might take a lot of different opinions, but you have to move forward. If you get too paralysis analysis, like that's been the biggest thing. My lawyer said the other day, he's like, man, you're like navigating this better than most people twice your age. And I'm like, you know why? It's because I'm going to get it done. I don't care. Like there's a way and I'm called to do it. So I'm going to get it done. And I feel like this is my lot in life. This is the reason I'm here, is to help people navigate this crap. So that
Brad, you're rad. And that just goes right back to the beginning of, you are such a phenomenal leader. Like that last quote that you just stated, you are here and you know that you can't just sit and do nothing. And you know that there's a way, it's all figure outable. And if somebody tells you no,
great idea.
Exactly. You're here, you're helping people navigate it. You're not going anywhere. This is your passion and this is what you do. And you're very open about what you know and what you don't.
And if you're blessed enough to be able to do something like this for a decade or more, like that's an amazing life. And at this point, it's less about my needs. Certainly I want to make money like everybody else, but it's less about me and what I need. It's more about what can I do for others. And that's an important place to be in. So if you find yourself in that privileged position, first of all, I'm grateful for you for doing the work and keeping at it, because it's hard. I know it's hard, but keep going, right? The most value and joy you're going to get out of life is helping and serving others.
You're awesome, Brad. Thank you so much again today for all the knowledge. If you want to follow Brad in his Facebook group, it's 100% you need to get in there, because he has the knowledge. He has the people that he's following, and he drops all of his knowledge into this Facebook group. So highly recommend it. Brad, please, I'm already in the group. I follow it all the time, but one more time, what is that name of your Facebook group?
Sure. Just go to nftcryptocommunity.com, nftcryptocommunity.com.
You're awesome, Brad. So yeah, of course. And thank you for listening in today. I know you've gotten a lot of good knowledge from this, because I know I'm sitting here and learning so much every day from you, Brad. So thank you again, and we will catch you on the next episode. I hope you are so excited about where you're going, because I know I'm excited for you. Thank you so much for listening in today. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you shared it with a girlfriend or posted it on social media. Tag me so I could personally say thank you. I am so grateful. And until next time,